coming up on The Source.
Right? We have a license and inspection department. We have a public works department that should be keeping up on this stuff and making sure it's addressed.
If your landlord isn't fixing whatever they need to fix, you send that money to the city and the city holds it.
I would get fired from this church. The people will have no trust in me. And because it was a minor, I might even go to jail.
And those community centers are supposed to be safe havens. And these cops who are on our street are supposed to be community members and help build the community and protect the community. And he took advantage of a vulnerable minor. This isn't a Democrat-Republican issue. This isn't a white or black issue. This is affecting pretty much every single school district across the state.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we need affordable housing. Because if anything, is certain things in life that should be a human right. And housing, having somewhere safe, that's warm, that's free of mold, that has hot water, is just a basic human need.
Joe Biden's bandwagon. But a lot of the stuff that he promised, he delivered. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
Sinead Darby.
And welcome to The Source. Every week we try our best to bring you some good information so that you may remain fully informed of what's going on in and around our city as well as the state. Today, I want to start off by talking about the city overlooking the sewage leak, and it caused, some of the residents to have to wear their masks. The first question I want to ask before we get into the details is, why is it always in our community that things are being ignored?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I just want to say this isn't something new. And like you said, it's always ignored in the lower income areas, in the black communities, and the minority communities, right? We have a license and inspection department. We have a public works department that should be keeping up on this stuff and making sure it's addressed. This is just like the issue of rental properties here that are dilapidated, that have black mold, that has no heating. We should have pre-rental inspections. We should have people who are constantly going out doing inspections, handling constituent services right now, and that's just not happening.
Yeah, and I want to agree. Like, if you think of like the city council, there has not been, or the mayor administration, any budgetary items that says we care about housing, right? So we don't have that in our budget, and we need to start prioritizing that after we have this that's come to light. There's probably millions more, hundreds more in our city. We had the Adams Street residents who were experiencing a lot of things, and it all goes down to enforcement. And we have a lot of codes and laws already in place to help mitigate this, but it's an enforcement issue. So it's like, at this point, how do we get the city to enforce these legislations or these laws or things that already exist to strengthen renters' rights? But it's just not happening. They're going to argue capacity, they're going to argue money. And for me, I was thinking one day, I called somebody and I was like, yo, how do I sue the city for not enforcing? And they were like, well, you have to be very careful because a lot of it says the city can, right?
Use that
So
subjective.
so he was like, you can, to make a point, right? You can go sue them for not enforcing a lot of these housing codes. But if it says can, the city has an option when you use can.
Right.
You need to change it to must.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they must do this. So that's another issue, is that they can argue capacity. They can argue it's if we can, and we can't because we don't have the money and the people.
But they got
right?
the money to fine you when you do wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. But okay, I'm sorry, you're doing so well. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No. No, and that's why this is that's important because we have already on the books with the city to do things around like escrow accounts. Like the city already on books has an existing law where they can set up an escrow account. If your landlord isn't fixing whatever they need to fix, you send that money to the city and the city holds it. Then even it goes even further when you read the housing code that they can take that money to repair it. The city can take that money to then repair whatever the issue is for that tenant.
Now, see, I didn't know anything about that, and that's very good information, I think, because that means that there are people who are watching us right now who have been asking their landlord to fix something, to fix something, and fix something, and it's not being done. So you're saying what they can do on the books, they can send that rent
Yep.
to the city and say that I am issuing this rent because this is not fixed, and then the city at some point can fix it and then return the rest of the funds.
Correct. Chapter 34, Housing
Wow.
Code, Article 2. And if you read that, that's where they talk about using withheld rent to correct violations and then how they can use contractors for repairs within Chapter 34. Because I'm really big on housing. So I was like, I need to read this housing. So I've been trying to go through it and pick it piece by piece with some community people who are experts around housing and say, what do we already have, right? And this is what we have already, like these tools to repair more homes, prevent displacement, protect health and safety of our people in our community, and to protect renters' rights. And we need a tenants union for our city. So hopefully that can come soon because tenants need protection and they need to know what their rights are.
And I appreciate you so much for bringing that to the front, especially for our seniors who watch and those who are in low income housing, because the problem is, if you have a lawyer, you don't care about all these rights of the city has for you, but it's always affecting the poor community because they don't have the lawyers. I don't think Adams Street would have occurred the way it occurred had all the residents knew send your rent to the city, and until the city come and fix it, you will continue to send your rent there because the landlord then would step in and say, look, we got to get this right, or we'll try to evict you. And then there's any rights if a landlord decide I'm going to evict because she has not paid rent. How will a person get out of that entanglement?
Right. So I think that goes into, I think, education, having like a program for us to educate renters and landlords and homeowners, everyone in the city. And then also taking a step forward, using our mediation programs and supporting like Right to Counsel, which is happening on the state level, where that mediation could take place before the eviction happens. People can get connected to resources before that eviction happens, right? Before, well, to even prevent the eviction from happening,
Yeah,
right?
but I'm more or less talking about not an eviction because the person just didn't pay their rent.
Right.
I'm talking about an eviction that the person didn't pay their rent, but they sent their rent to the city.
Right.
So can an landlord evict because I sent my rent to the city because my light bulb is still not fixed?
Not by law, not from what I know. I would have to look it up. I don't think they can evict
I'm
if
sure
they're
you're
not
right.
repairing.
I'm
If they're
sure.
not if you have a good reason, like they're not repairing.
Well, what's the checks
they
and
can't.
balances to say they did repair? Because they can say, well, we did. Should they? How do we do the checks and balance to that?
Well, I think you have to go through due process. Like when I was a renter, I had an issue. I had to call LNI. So that was my first step. I called LNI, and then I had an attorney through Classy. So they gave me free legal assistance for me to be able to fight my landlord, and I didn't pay him. Like I held the money. So my attorney was like, you can do that because you have legitimate concerns about where you're living. So he didn't evict me. My attorney ended up helping me get out of that house without any repercussions of trying to owe like the rest of the contract.
Well, you got money. I ain't really talking about people like you.
No,
I'm talking about those who are
listen,
struggling.
I don't have money.
Yeah, well, you have a lawyer. Whenever you got a lawyer, you can struggle. I'm from good
No,
times.
Classy. Classy is a program.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I can't afford
Community Legal Aid Society provides eviction defense attorneys and attorneys for other things as well.
Yeah, so I got free services.
Yeah, okay, I got you there. I feel better. Ooh, you made me nervous. But I will say this, for those of you who are watching us, please make sure that it's on the book. She shared with us exactly the article that it is. We ask that you would just withhold and send your money to the city or take it to the city and share it with them why you are bringing it to them so that they will understand that you want this rent withhold because these things are not fixing your property, and ask them to do an inspection. Because I think that will help make it all legal. You ask them to come see it, and they come see it, and then if they don't help you, then call us. We will make sure we stay on the job. You all right with that? Y'all good with that? All right, let's move to something else that really kind of got under my my skin. The former police officer, I believe his name is Brandon Cooper.
Mhm.
While I believe in mercy and grace, I just don't understand how these police officers, whether it be a white police officer or a black police officer, I just don't understand why they keep getting off with little. If I did with some of these, like for example, I'm a pastor. If I expose myself and all that, I don't want those kind of imagery things out there. But I would get fired from this church. The people will have no trust in me, and because it was a minor, I might even go to jail. How is it that he only get a couple months, and it's not even
Not even months. He
Yeah.
only got 90 days of home confinement.
Oh my gracious!
This guy took advantage of a young minor who's supposed to be going to a community center in a time where this city already has enough issues with violence, and those community centers are supposed to be safe havens. And these cops who are on our street are supposed to be community members and help build the community and protect the community. And he took advantage of a vulnerable minor. And then to see that this case, the way this case came out, and the fact that he only got 90 days. And it seems as though when this all came about, hit the newspapers and everything, certain people were more concerned with clarifying, right? That he's a former officer now.
Yeah.
No, he did this while
Like
he
was
worked
all
for
in a
y'all.
uniform.
And it went unaddressed.
Yes, by the
It went
department.
unaddressed.
Yeah,
And then he gets a slap on the wrist for this.
unacceptable.
This is unacceptable.
Yeah, and you in your soprano voice right now. What you mean?
It should be. And I'm infuriated by this.
Yes.
Because I see every day the negative impacts of not having a safe haven
Absolutely.
for a young child in the city of Wilmington.
Mhm.
Every single day. And I know how hard it is to create programming, to engage and, make sure people feel safe, want to come to your center. But for a person who works for us, right? It's our taxpayer dollars that pay for him, has a badge that's supposed to protect a community. And this is something I've talked about for a long time with Leah Board and with policing reform. But this one really gets under my skin.
Well, you may be getting on your skin because you're dealing with a minor, and that is very sensitive to all of us.
Yeah.
We have young children, and we have people that we want to. They're the vulnerable. But the thing that I want to make sure that it stays in the front end. He was a police officer who has public trust.
Yeah.
How do we maintain that public trust if all the person's gonna do is plead guilty? Now, it's one thing if he was found guilty, but he pleaded guilty. Yeah, I did it. All right. So what are the ramifications of doing what I did? 90 days of home confinement? Unacceptable.
Right. And it's just going to continue to make this the deep divide that we already have in like trusting between the community and policing.
Yeah.
Like, as we see these things, and it's embedded in us now that when police officers do things, they're not held accountable for it. And if they are held accountable, it's a slap on the wrist, right? So that how do we build? How is that community policing?
Yeah.
He should be in jail.
Okay.
So the full readout is he has 3 months, 90 days home confinement, and then 9 months probation. He had to turn in his police training certification, and he's not allowed to have another job that deals with youth. And he has to
in the
get
state of
treatment.
Delaware. Let's make sure we clear. He can go to Maryland or someplace where they don't do partnerships, and he could probably like some people come over here from other places because of this Leah Board. I'm told that their backgrounds is not as
Yeah, right. So that's, I would recommend that on a federal level, right?
Okay.
It's making sure that you have a database,
Okay.
a universal database that shows all misconduct on your record. That's not always transferable.
Right.
Depending if you're going to a small rural town in backwood Oklahoma, or if you're going to a major city, they may not get all that information, even in this new data age, right? So this is what we've been talking about. But then also on our end here, we need to do a better job with more pre-interview background checks. We need to look at implicit and explicit biases. We need to look deeper into a history of someone who we are handing a firearm to, someone we're handing a badge to, right? So this all goes along with Leah Board reform. This investigation The evidence that they were able to find was presented by the officers themselves who work with him, right? So you see that when they work together, the evidence, the what they're pushing for isn't as stiff as it should be. And this is a prime example of what's wrong with Leah Board here in the state of Delaware. Now there are individuals who are trying to work to change it. And I know I've been very vocal, very vocal. But if this case right here doesn't give you the fire and the need to say, look, let's put aside our personal differences, our personal dislikes of being, pro community, pro cop, and sit down and let's come together on a solution and finally get this done so that this doesn't happen again. I think it's time for that conversation to happen.
Yeah, and I'm gonna add to that because oftentimes people will accuse us of only highlighting things that Caucasian people do. If it was a Caucasian cop, y'all would have been jumping up and down. Well, this has happened to be an African American cop. But our whole goal is not about a white cop, black cop, or green cop. It's about equity within the police department so that we can have public trust. We have to be able to trust the people who are protecting us. Now, our most vulnerable was not protected. And the best thing they can do is 9 months of probation. Not probation, 9 months of being home confined. That is totally unacceptable. And he was found doing other things even when he was picked up that were illegal.
Right. After he resigned.
Yes.
Right. So he resigned back in February, 20 days before the indictment of charges for the images with the young minor came out. But 8 days after he was indicted, he was picked up again for selling oxy pills. Right. So I'm sorry. I just don't think someone can get into that business, build a clientele,
In 8 days.
know how to sell to in just 8 days. So again, this opens up the light. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think it should open up the light to say, look, maybe we have something going on that we need to look at a little bit more, right? Especially if you have officers who were able to do this in a week's time and make money off of it to sustain their fact that they just lost their salary because they had to resign for messing with a minor. That seems like a good time to say, look, let's take a step back and do a deep dive through our department to make sure this doesn't happen again. But that's not what has happened.
The NRA, as well as the police department, are the strongholds of our country. They will not budge. They will not allow, even they'll put black folks in positions. They will not allow anything to get past them. No, we're not doing anything. Our cops are pure, and it's just horrible. It's just hard. And I'm the son of a cop, and he can't hardly stomach some of the stuff that he's hearing and seeing at this point in his life. Really sad. Well, I just want to end this segment by saying, in your face, okay, because you there's some people in St. Louis who are very political like you are and will ask the right questions, but Tracy got that job. He landed it well, safe. Any response?
Congratulations to him. I hope he likes his pay raise.
Pay raise.
He makes currently about 160 right now. He's going to be making 275,000.
Wow. 115,000
with a partnership between a local police foundation and the city there to pay him that money. So the city will be paying him 175. The foundation will be paying him 100,000. But this comes after one of the other candidates. So it was 4 candidates who were going for the position, dropped out to handle some in-house of his current police department. I believe he's in Charleston, South Carolina, to handle some issues that are going on there. That
what an honorable person.
He didn't want to leave before it was handled.
That's very honorable. I mean, the city has not produced a plan yet. We're still trying to figure out some things, but to leave it when a good opportunity, a good payday come is very important. Even though y'all folks had to vote to get him the salary that he have, look at your response. Look at your outcome. Y'all voted for him to make.
So that was the previous session.
That wasn't you.
No, I wasn't.
Okay, she skated out of that. Okay.
Because y'all would have heard me at least say something. I would have voted no. But no, I think congratulations. Wish them the best of luck in St. Louis. I think this gives us an opportunity to really be involved in the next process of selecting our next chief of police here for the city of Wilmington. So good riddance. Like, enjoy your salary increase and your family and everybody. I just wish
You
them
know
the
what I
best
like
of luck.
about you, Sister Shanae? I like about you is that you are very optimistic and you really believe that the system can, and you should because you're an advocate, but that the system will change and things will be a better day. And there's a good day in the neighborhood with Mr. Rogers. But you know what? As long as the mayor has his seven, I don't care whether you like it or not, who he wants to be the next chief of police will be the next chief of police.
But it's not going to be easy.
How well not? If I got
It's
my
not going to
seven.
be easy. It's going to be a lot of conversation and talks and pushback.
Okay.
Well, not only that, right? So I brought up the salary
Mhm.
portion because the discussion around that was to be able to recruit and retain high quality candidates in certain positions, we need to raise salaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I 100% agree with that. I think it's time that we increase the salaries of the everyday workers that the city have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're the ones who's doing a lot of work. I think then it needs to be relooked at where the money's going to make sure that we can put more money into other departments like license and inspections so that we
Yeah.
don't have a storage issue like that. So I hope, during this discussion and discussion of salary and everything, other things come into it and start opening up doors for other conversations to be had
Yeah,
here in the
even
city.
like even just creating a public safety department, right? This is the conversation. We can at least start the conversation
When you
now.
gonna start it?
I already started it. I've been submitting resolutions and paperwork.
Have anybody responded?
Not anyone in the mayor administration, but I've been talking to different city council about why we need a public safety director, a person who's a civilian to have oversight over our.
That would be so interesting, because the cities that are, I didn't mean to cut you off, Sister Janelle,
Good.
but the cities that are doing public safety seem to be faring better.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing. This isn't anything new to the city of Wilmington. We've had a public safety
Okay.
director in the past multiple times,
Okay.
right? And they wouldn't just oversee police, they would oversee fire and emergency management, right? So it would kind of be a three-tiered thing. But it would also allow that person to take some of that off of the mayor's plate, right?
Mhm.
And that person would have 100% of their time dedicated to increasing public safety and making sure everyone is able to live here, addressing quality of life issues. Whereas, as a mayor, and I'm not taking a shot at him, but as a mayor, you have how many other departments that you also have to focus on, right? So if you don't have that key person who can handle it 100% of the time, well, now you're only giving maybe 10% of your time or focus or efforts to this or this. And then maybe if something happens, you have to give another 10% to make it 20%. But it's never going to be that 100% dedication there. So that, and that's just how any city has to do. And
Well,
we've
that's what I mean.
seen across the board.
I can hear the mayor saying, well, that's the purpose for why I have a chief of police, so he can have all of his attention in the police department. But I think the public safety thing is more general because it
That's
becomes a
internal.
public health, a public safety
Right.
all together. Where and I like the civilian part. That's the part I like the most because that person is not controlled by the thoughts, the contamination of some of the police doings.
Yes, I agree. So I'm gonna put it out there. That's all I could do.
Mm.
And I'm not gonna say that they're gonna bite it the first time go around, but they're gonna have this conversation.
Okay. All right. And I hope that you will continue to just put it out there because at the end of the day, when we're on this show, I always throw things at you all because sometimes y'all are very optimistic, sometimes we're pessimistic. But the reality of it is, I just know that as long as a person have the votes they need, they will hear you while you're talking. When you finish talking, they then do what they need to do. And it's already those plans and schemes are out always. And that happens in churches, that happens in government, that happens everywhere. But at some point we have to have some serious conversation so that we'll be able to do what we have to do in order to be successful for our residents, because the city of Wilmington deserves better.
I agree.
And again, I'll say congratulations. I personally had some very good conversations with Chief Tracy, and he had some good thoughts. I don't know what held up those good thoughts. Maybe that wasn't something that the mayor wanted to do or whatever. But the point was we were very friendly with each other. The front part of his administration. At the last part, he kind of cut me off, which is something they do when you don't go along to get along. But at the end of the day, I wish him well in St. Louis. I have some good friends. Matter of fact, one of my favorite preachers are in St. Louis. So we'll be checking in and we'll be seeing what's happening with him. But good riddance, and I hope that the mayor will find someone who will be certainly equitable for everybody.
I agree.
We'll be right back.
Tune in at 8 a.m. every Sunday for our worship services. Join us at 9 a.m. on YouTube and Facebook Live by typing Zion Fair Baptist Church. We are Wilmington's most exciting church.
New guests, new conversations, new stories every Sunday at 11 a.m. Grab your cup of coffee and tune in with Dr. Curry for our weekly episodes of Coffee with Curry. all across the nation. Wilmington's latest headlines. Advocating for change in the community with Dr. C.T. Curry, Kobe Owens, and Shanae Darby. Tune in to The Source every Sunday at 5 p.m.
And we're back. As you know, we are doing so many different things. There's so many moving parts to our show. And Sister Shanae has to do something with the children, and we certainly are very friendly to that and support us, especially since she is a single parent. Brother Kobe,
Yes.
favorite part of the show.
Yes.
Help me to understand what's going on in the Kobe's Corner.
So first off, I want to talk about a program that I've talked about multiple times on this show, and that's DHAP program.
Yeah.
It's something that the Metropolitan Wilmington Urban League does, where I work at, but also a lot of community partners have Navigator programs. It has helped a lot of people. Hundreds and thousands of people who have fallen behind on their rent due to this pandemic, loss of wages, reduction in wages during the pandemic as well too, have been able to keep them housed during this time. It has also helped with utilities, so lights, electrics, and stuff like that, and water. So the program has already put out $122 million in housing assistance, right? That's about for 22,000 Delawareans across the board. They are getting towards the end of their money. This is a program that launched in 2020 or 2021, thanks to federal funding. But they're getting close to the end of their funding, so they are putting a pause on it until January 2nd, to let agencies or let any outstanding applications go in, and they will recertify if you need to recertify, but any new applications will be paused. Right now they have about 5,000 applications currently in the pipeline that they still have to get to. On their end, they are understaffed and overworked. So they want to make sure that they are allowing their workers to do their due diligence and making sure they're processing these cases and everything. So it has been paused for now. And those who are in emergencies, that include about to be evicted or homelessness, can still seek assistance though through our Navigator program.
And those who are already in the program can still seek assistance.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So that's where that program is right now. I wanted to make sure I let people know that, right? Because it is something we constantly see a flow of people throughout the day. And I know all our other partner organizations also see a flow of people throughout the day who are looking for rental assistance help.
Gotcha.
But next, another issue that we've talked about on this show is the lead in the water in our schools, right? So earlier this year, 14 school districts and one charter school tested high levels of lead in their school, in at least one of their buildings, right? We have 19 school districts, 14 of them.
That's horrible.
14 of them had at least one building or somewhere in a building fail. So DOE has announced that they're bringing in a private firm based here in Delaware. It's called Bada Environmental Associates. They're based in Newark to test the lead in the drinking water again. The state is already seeking support from a federal grant for sampling initiatives in schools, but also, of course, they're looking to address some of the infrastructure issues that may have led to this as well too, which includes needing new piping and addressing some water filtration issues as well too.
You know, as I read some articles on this whole issue, I did notice that the state has been slow in their responses. they've neglected in some cases to follow up. And while the state, looking for federal assistance, there are some school districts that has indicated already that they have shared stuff with the state to be done, and they have not moved on it or act on it yet. So I don't know what's going on with that, with the state. 'Cause I noticed that they want to put it back on the school district, but if you are bringing that stuff to the state's attention, then what about you?
I agree. The schools took the right steps and they worked. Once the reporting came out, the areas that failed, they shut off that water there. But that's not enough. Now, Secretary Holodick, former superintendent of Brandywine, who's now our Secretary of Education, um, he believes that money won't be an issue, right? And I also hope money won't be an issue, right?
Children.
It would be very difficult for any sitting legislator to kind of want to fight pinning the money towards the schools. This isn't a Democrat Republican issue. This isn't a white or black issue. This is affecting pretty much every single school district across the state.
Yeah.
And that means in some of our reddest areas in the state and some of our bluest areas in the state. So I hope that they move with a quicker reaction time.
Yeah.
And that they use, the upcoming summer break to really fast track, but do quality work, but fast track the repairs to the schools that need to be made. And again, I know we have great advocates, both on our JFC for education, with Representative Stephanie Bolden, Representative Kim Williams, Tizzy Lockman, Senator Tizzy Lockman, Senator Laura Sturgeon on the Senate side. But then we also have great advocates for our community who are on the bond committee as well too. Senator Nicole Poore, Senator Darius Brown, and so many others. So I believe that this will be handled in a quick manner. But we will also be holding them accountable and following up and following through the process with this to make sure that the schools have clean and safe drinking water.
Important.
Speaking of development and building and bond money, Newcastle County unanimously passed and approved over $5 million for various affordable housing projects in Wilmington. I think this is great, right? It goes a long way to addressing the issue of affordable housing. We're seeing, a lackluster supply of housing, not only in Wilmington or in Delaware, but all across the nation. In Delaware alone, we're 18,000 units short for affordable housing, which is creating more financial barriers for people and causing people to be displaced and moved out of the state or moved out of the city. So a part of this money is $5 million. 200,000 is going to Habitat for Humanity. 150,000 is going to Ministry of Caring. And the Wilmington Neighborhood Conservancy, I'm sorry, y'all, is getting $500,000, $500,000 to assist with affordable housing development, and then $3 million to developers setting properties incorporated, and $1.352 million to the National Alliance for Mental Illness for here in Delaware. The sponsor is my councilman, Penrose Holland, my county councilman, Penrose Hollins, longtime councilman, who says a lot of these projects are in the city of Wilmington, and there's a reason for that. Wilmington has to be more creative with their home ownership programs, and as we go forward, making sure that we're giving people the tools to start building that financial wealth so that they can get out of situations like this. But in the meantime, we need affordable housing because if anything, is certain things in life that should be a human right, and housing, having somewhere safe, that's warm, that's free of mold, that has hot water, is just a basic human need that I think everyone needs to to have.
Yeah, and I say hats off to Councilman
Holland.
Hollins, who has worked in this area for years, and he has
Yes.
been a staunch supporter for affordable housing, recognizing the need so greatly
Mhm.
for it. So we say hats off to him. But if you look across the country now, you will see that everyone is starting to try to focus on, because homelessness is becoming out of
Yes.
control. But it all starts with the scarcity of it. And right now, if Wilmington and Newcastle, as well as the state of Delaware, would start addressing the issues, we won't have the homelessness issues like in California,
Yes.
like in New York, and things of that nature. So hats off to Councilman Hollis, and also to all of those who supported. He said unanimously.
Yeah.
That's great. So that means Jay Street agreed with him.
Yes.
Okay, then that means we're in good shape. All right. All right.
Yes. But also outside of that, I think um you talked about Councilman Hollins and the work he's done. I just want to say, since he's been on, I think it's been 28 years, 29 years. Now he's helped create inclusionary zoning. He's helped create more workforce housing. And these go a long way in addressing our housing crisis here. And he also helped create, I think it's the Housing Trust Fund. I may have messed up the words. It may be Trust Housing. I don't know. But he's helped really move the needle on what affordable housing looks like, not just in the city of Wilmington, which he is the vast majority of his district. Um, he helped do it for all of Newcastle County.
That's right.
And I think there's a lot that we can learn from that type of legislation and kind of replicate it on a statewide basis with the General Assembly. And some pieces have been replicated already. So I'm excited to see these projects. I'm excited to see where these developments are going to go, and how they're going to engage the community in making sure people aren't displaced here as the city continues to grow.
Absolutely.
So next up, I have another, major funding project, right? So from the CDC, the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, we are getting $11 million. It was announced by Governor Carney, Senator Carper and Coons, and Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester for the first state public workforce and infrastructure initiative. Now, this is going to put money. This is, again, some more money from the American Rescue Act plan, legislation that was championed by President Biden. But this is going to help, with contact tracers, laboratory scientists, community health workers, and data analysts as we continue to come out of this pandemic, but then also address other health needs that we need to. I know in our community, in the Black community, cancer is on the rise. In various different forms, that I think we need to really take a long, in-depth look at how we can make sure that there's the proper testing, there's the proper knowledge and education around getting tested, and making sure you're going to your primary care doctor and having a primary care doctor so that you are regularly getting your well checkups and stuff like that, so that we can start addressing some of the long-term health issues our community have had, not just with diabetes or high blood pressure, but also addressing some of these diseases and viruses that we get as well too. So I look forward to this one as well too, as they continue to build out. And we'll be giving you updates as we go through the show, as we do more shows on just where they stand on things. And then again, I've been talking about housing for a very long time.
Right.
It's one of my my favorite subjects to learn about. It's one of my favorite subjects to try to help people with.
Okay.
Right. I don't say I'm a housing expert, right? Because I don't know everything. I do a lot of reading, do a lot of research, listen to a lot of webinars, best practices, look at how other cities are doing things. But I want to give a shout out to President Biden.
All right.
President Biden brought local legislators from around the country together to talk about our housing supply gap. A part of this conversation was tackling inflation. which he has said time again and time again has been one of his top economic priorities, right? But this plan that he's releasing, the housing supply action plan, looks to ease the burden of housing costs over time by boosting the supply of quality housing in every community. It includes legislative and administrative actions that he would like to see on a state and local level as well too. That will help close the shortfalls over the last 5 years that we've had in housing.
Join us at 9 a.m. on Facebook Live every Sunday by typing Zion Fair Baptist Church.
Jesus felt what you're feeling, but he did not sin. Am I in the word? Have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet he did not sin.
We are Wilmington's most exciting church.
I've got Christmas joy down in my soul. I got Christmas joy down in my soul. This time of the year, when good friends are near, I got Christmas joy down in my soul. Y'all like that? I got Christmas joy down in my soul. I got Christmas joy down in my soul. Oh, this time of the year, when good friends are near, I got Christmas joy down in my soul. Come on, we're gonna try that one more time. Y'all can sing it. I got Christmas joy down in my soul. Yes. I got Christmas joy down in my soul. Oh, this time of the year, when good friends are near, I got Christmas joy down in my soul. I got another one for you. I've got Christ in my heart this holiday. I got Christ in my heart this holiday. I'm glad I can say I got Jesus on this holiday. I got Christmas joy down in my soul. I've got Christ in my heart this holiday. I've got Christmas joy down in my soul. I got Christmas joy down in my soul. This time of the year. This time of the year. When good friends are near. I got Christmas joy down in my soul.
Join us at 9 a.m. on YouTube every Sunday by typing eZion Fair Baptist Church.
Oh my God, help me today. Which means every storm is a school. Every trial is a teacher. Every experience is an education. And every difficulty is development.
We are Wilmington's most exciting church.
And we're back. Well, real quick, Brother Kobe, we're coming to the end of this show, and we're at almost the end of the year, and many people are saying some people are saying they don't want Joe Biden to run. Others are saying they do want Joe Biden to run. Mm-hmm. He said he needed to have a family discussion. I'm sure he's had that discussion. When Joe tried to run years ago, before even running for president or part of the vice president ticket, his wife was very much against any higher office. She was saying no. In fact, I think it was CNN, cited her as walking through the house in a bikini with a no on her stomach. No. But now we're starting to hear that she's very much in favor of him running again. I have to give credit to where credit is due. And I know that there are times when I'm not on Joe Biden's bandwagon, but a lot of the stuff that he promised, he delivered. Mm-hmm. Some things, even he promised, he didn't have the power to be able to do it, but somehow God intervened, or Republicans or whoever got in, or Joe Manchin, and Cinema, and made things happen. Yeah. So tell me your feelings about, one, do you think he should run? Two, do you feel he's accomplishing?
Yeah, so one, I do think he should run again. And I think, with this type of campaign, running for second election, you go all out. Right? You go all out, you really put your boots to the ground, and you also try to lift up as many federal candidates as possible, as many gubernatorial candidates as possible, as many state rep and state senate candidates as possible, because we've seen the impact it has had on all levels, both on the state and federal level, right? Mm-hmm. And, I say that, right? More left-leaning, right, than probably where the president is. Mm-hmm. But I also acknowledge what he's gotten done. Mm-hmm. And there has been no president that has gotten as much as he's gotten done with such slim margins. And I think that's where my nerdiness comes out, right? Mm-hmm. Just knowing the history of the Senate. The Affordable Care Act was monumental. But President Obama has 60 Democratic senators.
That's right.
A filibuster-proof coalition, right? Mm-hmm. President Biden, for his first 2 years, has had 50 senators on a good day. Mm-hmm. On a good day. 48, 47 on a bad day, depending, where some people were. The House has not been at full capacity since the third day of session. Mm-hmm. There has either been a resignation, a death, or a scandal going on that has caused people to, again, resign or retire early. That is still going to be going on. So that 5-vote margin was not always 5 votes. At one point, it was like a 2-vote margin.
Absolutely.
And he was still able to get things done. So that makes me sit back and say, if he had flat-out majorities, if he had a veto-proof, or not veto-proof, a filibuster-proof Senate, where would we be as a nation right now?
Wow.
We would have a child tax credit program that was
Yes.
still going on, that put money in the pockets of parents who truly needed it, right? We would have a better Build Back Better plan. Our infrastructure program would be even better than what we got passed. Our CHIPS and Science, the bipartisan CHIPS and Science bill would have been even better, right? So we would have been able to get police reform done. We would have been able to get a lot of social justice issues addressed as well, too. He has put more judges on the federal bench than any other judge at this point in their tenure
And
as
people of
president.
color and
And
minorities.
has followed through with his promise, not only to appoint a black woman to the Supreme Court, but to appoint more diversity to our federal bench. Under his leadership, we've seen the most black women, right, black men, most Asian Americans, and most Hispanics ever to be appointed to federal benches, appellate benches across the country. And more to come, right? We just have the first black woman from Delaware to be appointed to the Third Circuit, our circuit that covers our area here. And he's going to continue to build on that, right? So, it's some things that he has in his control. It's some things that he can do as just president with an executive order. But I think he has done a good job working with what cards he was dealt with. And, I like to play spades with friends and families. And sometimes you aren't dealt a good hand.
Absolutely.
But a very skilled and knowledgeable player knows how to still win with a horrible hand.
That's right.
And I think that's exactly what President Biden has been able to do over these last 2 years. I think it's going to be a little more difficult now that the House is in the Republicans' hands. And, he's gearing up for more investigations that they're going to call on his administration. But I think, overall, he has been a successful president. And I hope if he does run, we probably will see an announcement pretty soon if he is or isn't going to run. But if he does run and he wins, I hope that the House flips and that we hold the Senate and expand those margins. It's a tough map, but we can get it done.
Just yes or no answers. Trump is out of the picture now, because even though he's still going to run, even the Republicans are throwing him to the wolves. DeSantis, do you think Biden can beat him?
I think it would be extremely close, but I think Biden comes out on top.
All right. The Supreme Court, do you think that if we flip the House back and we have enough senators to be able to do a, what do we call it, the filibuster, to do it, do you think that we could probably add more to the Supreme Court?
We can either add more to the Supreme Court and expand it, which has happened multiple times in history, or what we do is constitute term limits or age limits. I think age limits are best, right? I think that's the more viable option right there, because we have it already in other courts. In Delaware, once you hit a certain age, you go to senior level. We should be doing that across the board.
Okay, and last but certainly not least, well, you kind of handled that with the filibuster. Do you still feel that we should get rid of the filibuster?
Yes. I believe it's going to be a long time before we see any party have 60 senators ever again.
Okay, very good. Well, look, we've had a good show today.
Yes.
I appreciate my sister Shanae, who had to run. Her daughter is in a Christmas caroling today at her school. And we are very grateful that she's a mom who just want to make things happen for her children, and she does such a phenomenal job. And to you, my brother, we are in that Christmas season. I know you're looking forward to the potato salad and the candy yams, as you often likes to talk about the meal of Thanksgiving or Christmas. But I appreciate all that you have done for us this year. And as we come into the end, I just want to always say thank you for what you do for the community.
And same to you, same to you. And again, just one last thing I want to highlight is that we're doing the Wilmington Unity Project.
Yes.
Is giving out hot meals. Like I said, I always care about the food, right?
Yeah.
So giving out hot meals the Sunday before Christmas. We'll be starting at 9 a.m. We have about 40 volunteers who are helping us this year. And as of right now, we're sitting at about like 400 meals scheduled out. So it's from 9 a.m. to about 3 p.m.
That's today, though. You said the Sunday
today.
before?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it's happening now.
Okay.
Not for sure we're going to be done delivering everything.
Okay.
But then after that, we're going to be giving out toys for 50 families at the POW.
Excellent.
And I heard from good authority from his scheduler that Santa is going to be making a special appearance.
I might have to come.
So we're super excited about that.
Amen. All right. Well, look, this has been a great show. Our time is up. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
See ya.
Take care, y'all.